Good morning, Acharya ji.
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्।
ॐ सहना भवतु
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
करवावहै
करवावहै
यस्विनावधीतमस्तु
नादितमस्तु मा
विद्विषावहै
विद्विषावहै।
शान्ति
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति शान्ति
शान्तिः
शान्तिः।
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
So we had completed the 51st verse in the last class of the 18th chapter. Now we are on the 52nd verse, all dealing with Nididhyasana meditation. So we will chant. Sri Bhagavanuvāca
Shri Bhagavanuvāca
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Vikta Sevi Laghvashi
विविक्तसेवी लघ्वाशी
Yatvakaya Manasaha
यतवाक्काय
Yatavakkayamanasah
मानसः
Dhyana Yoga Paro Nityam
ध्यानयोगपरो
Dhyanayogaparo
नित्यम्
Nityam
Vairagyam Samupashitaha
Vairagyam
वैराग्यं समुपाश्रितः
Vivikta Sevi. Vivikta Sevi is defined as Viviktan Deshan Sevitum Shilam Iti Vivikta Sevi. Very nice definition, right? Viviktan Deshan. Viviktan Deshan means, again, Shankara only defines Aranya, Nadi, Pulina, Giri, Guhadinaha. So Vivikta Deshan means Aranya, either a forest, a land near a forest, or river, Nadi. I'll just mute all of you all. Somebody's talking. So Aranya means forest, Nadi means river, Pulina. Pulina is a river bank, or it can also, refer to a small little island on the river. Giri is a mountain, and Guha Adina, cave, etc. Right? So Vivikta Sevi is the one who is Sheelam, who's got a habit of going to these kind of places, where forest, river, bank, etc., mountain, cave, etc. Okay. Of course, in practical terms, most of us who live in cities, this is not available to us today, right? So, for those who are like Spandana, who is a very beautiful place, for her it is okay. For people like us, such places are not available. So, choose a relatively secluded place. The idea is that external disturbances will be minimized. And therefore, what Krishna is saying is that learn to be alone. Being alone is not being lonely. This is a difference most of us don't understand. In fact, most people in this world today, alone means lonely. But for people like us who are the way thinks, there's a huge difference because we are never lonely, but we prefer to be alone. The important virtue to be developed. And there is a practical aspect also. Remember that any problem which you have, ultimately, in the final analysis, you are alone to face that problem. Family members, husbands, wives, children, parents, all said and done, ultimately the problem is yours alone. They can sympathize, but who faces the problem? You only face the problem. So, which means you have to learn to confront your mind, learn to be at peace with your mind. And most people cannot do this, which is why the moment you get up, you have a newspaper, you have a TV, you have social media, you have mobiles, you have Facebook, you know. So Krishna is saying all these things learn to drop. And it's a good idea for us, just Some days when no class or something, early in the morning, get up, sit down, and keep your phone far away, put the lights off, relax, look outside, sit on the swing, do something, sit in the garden. But what is important is that you are face to face with your own mind. Right? Own mind means what? Facing your own concerns, your anxieties, your guilt, your worries, facing it alone, nobody else. And Sheelam Sevitum, very important phrase. Sheelam is basically habit. So Sevitum Sheelam, make it a regular practice, make it a habit, make it a abhyasa. So the question you can ask yourself, on days when I don't have class, when I have no access to my teacher, can I, you know, command my mind to recall the teaching? Can I sit quietly in one place for half an hour, 45 minutes and think about the last class? Can I recall the last class? So can I, without the help of my acharya, dwell on the teaching? Shilam, say with them, Shilam. Learn to make the mind your servant. And there are a few, uh, you know, traits which I mentioned. Laghvasi. So Laghvasi is expanded into Lagu plus Ashanaha. So Laghvasi is the one who habitually eats little, a moderate eater. And Yukta Ahara. This is the word Krishna used earlier, chapter 6, Yukta Ahara, eating in moderation. And here you can see that both are mentioned, Vikta Sevi and Lagvashi. Why? Because Vivikta Sevi, the person who remains in a lonely place, handles Vikshepa. It's a remedy for Vikshepa. Lagvashi, eating appropriately, not too much, helps you handle tamoguna, handle sleep. You won't fall asleep very easily. So Vivikta Sevi and Lagvasi means learn to handle the attack of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And if you have learned how to overcome the attacks by Rajoguna and Tamoguna, what remains is Sattvaguna only. Therefore, you are Chitta Prasada, peaceful mind. And further qualities, traits are described. Yat, Va, Kaya, Manaha. So you have to, Yat is Yatani, to control. Vak is the tongue, Kaya is the body, Manaha is the mind. So therefore, this person has learned to control the body, mind, and the tongue. Yatani is Sanyatani, controlled. So of that person who has controlled these things, Jnana Nishthasya, that seeker who is a Jnana Nishtha. This is the uh, meaning that Shankara gives to that Yati, the seeker, the person who is a Jnana Nishtha. But of course, we have to understand that Jnana here is not the person who is established in Jnana. Why? Because this is the practice of Nididhyasanam. So he is not yet established. He is not Jnana itself. So this Jnana has to be taken as a person who is committed to sadhana. It's sadhaka, not a siddha. And Shankara says, in this manner, all the sense organs should be made quiet. In which manner? Going to this place, having controlled food, in this manner, all the sense organs should be withdrawn and made quiet. And after that, you should practice the Vidhyasana. Right? So, in this practice, we have Dhyana Yoga, which is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So, what are the differences? It's a very nice difference. He says that normally a person is focused on Ahankara, I sense with body mind complex. When you shift that focus from ahankara to sakshi, you know, when you shift that focus from ahankara to sakshi, what is sakshi? Very important to understand what is sakshi. What is sakshi?
OC enclosed in mind.
The OC enclosed in the mind. So that Brahman or that Atma, which is available to you as the consciousness principle in your own mind. That is Sakshi. And Ahankara is the RC. Difference. Ahankara is the RC. Sakshi is the OC in your mind. Normally, when you say I, you refer to RC. I am eating, I am walking, I am talking, I am learning. All this is I is RC. But when you sit in samadhi or you sit for meditation, you have to first shift the focus from the I the body, I the RC, to I the OC, I the Sakshi. So Shankara says very beautifully that shift from IRC to IOC, Ahankara to Sakshi, that is called Dharana, the shift. And then attempting to maintain that shift. So first there is a shift, right? It is instantaneous because you say, okay, I'm the Sakshi now. You are contemplating on the fact that you are IOC and not I the RC. That shift is dharana. Then maintaining that shift, remaining in that state of I am the Sakshi is dhyana. And so maintaining that shift, there is an effort to maintain the shift. Right? Each word is important. First, there is a shift from RC to OC. Then there is the maintaining the shift. Effort is there to remain in the I am the OC state. That is dhyana. When that effort is so strong that your mind is absorbed in its sakshi state, the effort has disappeared. That is samadhi. So these are three states, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, which Shankara has come to. So see, he comments, dhyanam means atma swarupa chintanam, contemplation on the atma, which means bringing the mind to the object of meditation, which is sakshi. This is what we said. Bringing the mind from ahankara or sakshi is called dharana. And then Shankara says, Atma Vishaye Eva Ekagri Karana is called yoga. Yoga is the effort to remain with the Ekagri Karanam, one pointed mind on Atma Vishaye, on the subject of Atma only, on Sakshi only. So this is an effort to remain established in the state of I am Sakshi. This is called dhyana. Why is he saying this? Because there is always you can call it a tug of war between between the mind identifying as ahankara and the mind identifying as sakshi. So when you are in this particular state, there's an effort. You will find that you're saying, I am the sakshi. Suddenly you're talking about, I have to talk somewhere, that I am ahankara. Then I am the sakshi, then I have to eat ahankara. There is a constant shift, a constant tug of war, mind identifying as ahankara and sakshi. That tug of war is basically dhyana. Then the effort. The idea being there's an effort to pull the mind back from RC to OC. That effort is called dhyana. And when the effort disappears, so he says dhyana yoga paraha. The one who predominantly performs only these two activities, dharana and dhyana. This person is dhyana yoga paraha. When the effort has disappeared, so this is called samadhi abhyasa rupa meditation. And out of these two, Dhyanam and Yoga, the person who thinks that these are his two, a person not thinks, he does. He employs himself in only these two major activities. What is that? One is Dhyanam and one is Dharanam. He is Dhyana Yoga Paraha.
That is his karma.
Swadharma.
More appropriate.
That is his dharma.
That is his
Swadharma.
dharma anushtanam.
Swadharma Anushtan.
And what happens if we don't do that?
Pratyavaya.
Pratyavaya
Pratyavaya
Papa.
Right. So for a grahastha, if at all there is a conflict between coming to class and looking after his wife, what is the duty? It is to do the grahastha dharma. But and therefore, for a grahastha, the pursuit of Vedantic study, Sravanam, Maranam, Nididhyasanam, is necessary for moksha. But it is not a nitya karma. And that is why Shastram talks about vanaprastha. You have to reduce the nitya karma slowly, withdraw from grahastha duties. And thus, that is vanaprastha. But for a sannyasi, as a Shravanam, Maranam is nitya karma. If he doesn't do that, it gives pratyavaya papam because he doesn't have grahastha or vanaprastha duties. So nityam means the nitya grahanam. Use the word nitya, Shankara says, is for the purpose of showing the absence of other karma, like mantra japa, etc., etc. Or that means it's a sannyasi. For sannyasi, all duties are not there. Only the Vedantic study is there. Right? Now he comes back to Vairagyam, Antaranga sadhana, of which we have talked about earlier. Therefore, this Dhyana Yoga Para is actually to be read at the end of the next verse, not here. But anyway. So, Vairagyam is the absence of longing for drishta and adrishta vishaya that we have seen earlier in Tattvaboda also. When you don't have desire for the Ihaloka Phalam and Paraloka Phalam, that is called Vairagyam. In that, when that happens, everything other than Atma becomes a means to an end. Atma is the end. Everything else in life becomes the tool. And for the student, he should have only three overriding relationships. What are they? Ishvara, Shastra, and Guru.
Guru.
What is Ishvara's role? Because of his grace only, you have a chance to meet your Guru. What is Guru's role? Because of your Guru's grace only, you have a chance to learn Shastra. What is Shastra's role? Because of Shastra's grace only, you are getting into moksha. Right? But when even though we say that the only meaningful relations in your life should be Ishvara, Shastra, and Guru, ultimately remember that even the Ishvara Bhakta Sambandha is samsara. Right? And if Ishvara Bhakta Sambandha is samsara, then definitely Guru Shastra Sambandha, Guru Sishya Sambandha is samsara. Shastra Shishya Sambandha is also samsara. And the ultimate analysis, even these three relationships are samsara only. And that is why Naiva Guru, Naiva Shishya. I don't have a guru. I am not a guru, I am not a shishya. This sambandha has also to be dropped. Why? Because sambandhas are meaningless when only you are there. And therefore, all sambandhas have to be given up, which is why it says samupashritaha. Samupashrita means samyak upashritaha, completely given up. And here, samyak upashritaha is, upashrita here means basically committed to or possessed of what? Vairagyam. So, vairagyam samupashritaha, completely committed to vairagyam. And here a very nice tip is being given. When you are committed to vairagyam, what are you saying? That mentally you are a sannyasi. So this is a beautiful little tip. At the time of Vedantic meditation, Nididhyasana, you may have not worn your, saffron clothes or donned the saffron robes. But when you enter into the meditation room, you renounce your chappals, right, outside. Along with renouncing your chappals, renounce your spouse and your children and your parents and your friends. Take mental sannyasa when you enter the meditation room, right? Enter the room as a sannyasi. And don't worry about your wife and children, okay? Everything will be still good without you. And sometimes, as my wife tells me, better without you. Okay. So I don't know if your wife will say that, but you can
Hmm.
ask. Sometimes things are better without you. We only think, oh, what happened? But really speaking, nothing changes without you. Okay. So we will go to the 53rd verse. Ahankaram balam darpam
अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं
अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं
दर्पं
कामं क्रोधं परिग्रहम्
कामं
कामं
क्रोधं
क्रोधं
परिग्रहं
परिग्रहम्
परिग्रहम्
विमुच्य निर्ममः शान्तः
विमुच्य निर्ममः
विमुच्य
शान्तः
निर्ममः
शान्तः
शान्तः
ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते
ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते
ब्रह्मभूयाय
याय
कल्पते
कल्पते.
So again, Antaranga Sadhana. So what is the purpose of Nididhyasanam? Because of centuries of many births of conditioning, we have a very entrenched understanding that I am a human being. And this is there not only in the conscious mind, it is also there in the subconscious mind. So this entrenched understanding is called Jiva Bhavaha. Aham Jivaha. I am a Jivatman. That is called Jiva Bhavaha. And just like Sadhana Chatushtayam, Jiva Bhavaha expresses as Dushta Chatushtayam. Sadhana Chatushtayam is good four qualities. And there are thing called Dushta Chatushtayam. These are the four qualities which are not good for your sadhana. What are they? Ahankara, Mamakara, Ragaha, Dvesha. Ahankara is attachment to two anatmas, body and mind. The whole thing is attachment to anatmas only. Dushta, Chatushtayam, all the four are attachment to anatmas, but different types of anatmas. So Ahankara is attachment to the primary anatma, your body and your mind. Two, body, mind. Mamakara is attachment to three anatmas, family, possession, profession. So there are five crucial divisions of an Atma: body, mind, family, possession, profession. Right? Ahankara refers to first two, Mamakara refers to the next two. What is the problem with this attachment? As long as Mamakara is there or Ahankara is there, very strong expectations remain. And all these must be diluted, therefore. And how do you dilute them? by getting rid of the five anatmas. You can't physically get rid of them. So how do you do it? You hand them over to Ishvara by saying Yat Yat Bhavyam Bhavat Bhagavan Purva Karmana. Whatever happens to these five anatmas, let it happen in accordance with my karma. I will be prepared because I am a Vedantic student. And therefore, we have to renounce Mamakara and Hankara. So Shankara defines all these terms. Ahankara. He says, Deha Shutam. This the sense of aham in the body. That is the mind, indriya, is called ahankara. This is a error actually, because it's a misplacement of the I sense into the body, mind, etc. And then what should I do? I should remind myself in my Nidhi Dhyasanam that I am not the body. The body has come from Panchabhutas. It is a temporary gift to me from Ishvara. Ultimately, I have to return the body to the Panchabhutas. Right? You know that the ash which he put in her forehead, basically that's a reminder. This body will finally would be going to ash only. How? By going to the crematorium. There's a reminder for you. And that is why you have to protect the body. What is given to you for sadhana. So you have to look after the body, but you should not get attached to the body. And therefore, whenever we do karma, you should be clear that nitya karma, naimitya karma, actions are required to be done. And to do this karma, the body mind is necessary. And the body mind has been given to me by the Lord. Therefore, I have to do the job using that body and the mind. But I should know that I am not the body. And therefore, vimuchya, renounce that ahankara, the body mind complex. Okay. Then the next word is balam. So, balam here, Shankara defines samarthyam kama raga sanyuktam. So, that samarthyam, that capacity, balam is strength. So, that strength is the capacity in terms of power, skill, talent, whatever, backed up by kama and raga. Kama, raga, and yuktam. Right? You have a capacity, that capacity to do something. You know, it can be anything, playing tennis, playing cricket, reading the books, understanding faster, doing maths. That capacity is backed up by desire and attachment. So, for example, you know, you are chairman of some organization. You are 90 years old, but you are not willing to step down. Right? So you're holding on to that power. When nature is telling you that no, 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 you should not step away. But no, that you won't do. So vimuchya. You must renounce all these ideas. And there is a second type of power which Shankara says. He says Sharir Adi Samarthyam Swabhavi Swabhavik Swabhavik Tattvena. The kind of strength, balam, which arises because the body and the mind are in good condition. Shariradi. The body and the mind are in good condition. And this is a power which can be used for serving others. Right? So he says when Krishna says vimuchya, he means renounce the first type of power, which means that power which is being backed up by desire and attachment. But he doesn't mean that you should give up the second type of power, that body strength, mind strength. Why? Because you can use that for serving others and for doing a nitya karma. So all this you'll not find in the Mulam, Shankara's commentary on power you renounce. For power, you renounce that power which is not benefiting others, which is benefiting only you. But that power, that strength of mind, that strength of your body, by which you can serve others, do not renounce that. By which you can do your nitya karma, do not renounce that. How will you get a fit body? Well, in our tradition, asana gives you a fit body, pranayama gives you a fit body, meditation gives you a fit mind. These are not defects. Why? Swabhavik tatvena. They are natural to the body. And therefore, he says it is not possible to renounce what is natural. Right? Krishna cannot be saying that renounce what is natural. For example, the eyes see, the intrinsic power of the eyes, that cannot be given up. So, what is to be renounced is the first type of power, which is mixed, contaminated with kamaha and ragaha. Undesirable power, that's to be given up. Desirable power is that which can be used to do your own nitya karma as well as to help others. That we should not renounce. Krishna is not telling us to renounce that. Then, Darpam is the third word. Each word Shankara explains very beautifully. Darpam is that pride which comes on account of power. Right? That pride which comes on account of people recognizing your success. So what happens once people say this man is great or this man is successful? I like that praise. It goes to my head, and therefore I want it more and more. So initially, I may have remained in the confines of dharma while getting my success. But when people praise me more and more, then I want such praise more and more, for which I must have more and more success. At this point of time, because of the inflated ego, I will no longer consider dharma adharma when I am doing my further actions. So uncontrolled happiness, uncontrolled pleasure will make me go against my dharma. So it's called harsha antara bhavi, overexcitement. And Shankara says this excitement will make sure dharmati krama hetu will be a hetu, a reason for dharmati krama, violation of values, violation of dharma. So this tendency to violate values, which happens on account of overstimulation, is called dharma. Very beautiful, right? And so the normal pride. Okay, this, and Shankara says, of course, this is not my definition. He says this definition has been given in Apastamba Dharma Sutram. There is a text called Apastamba Dharma Sutram. And therefore, he says this definition has been given in this Smriti. A person who is overexcited becomes Darpaha. Darpaha will go against Dharmaha. In that arrogance, I will disrespect elders. And this is Adharmaha and Papa. Hence, Dharmam Atikramati. You cross over Dharma. You violate Dharma. And therefore, that you have to renounce. Where, what are we talking about? Meditation. When you come to the meditation seat, Nidhyasanam seat, when you sit down, this particular quality consciously renounce. What else do you renounce? Kamam. All the materialistic desires which you have to renounce. Why? Kama esha, krodha esha. These alone are your enemies because they veil the discriminative power. Viveka is veiled. What else we renounce? Krodham. Wherever kama comes, krodham will come. Anger will come. How? We have to recall the second chapter, verse 61, 62, which says how anger comes. Right? Those I'm not repeating. I'm presuming that everybody remembers those beautiful verses. So anger has to be renounced. and parigraham. So here he is giving a very technical definition. He says, even though you have renounced all the impurities in your mind, this is mental renunciation. But there are certain activities which you have to perform. Parigraha, possessions. For what purpose? For maintenance of your body and those possessions which you need for doing of religious activities. So these are all parigraha pertaining to grahastha ashram. So he says this also parityajya. You have to renounce. Again, I will remind you when you are entering the
Banaprastha.
meditation seat.
Nididhyasa.
We are talking about nididhyasana. When you are entering the nididhyasana seat, room for sitting down, all these things you have to leave outside. What is it coming to? Ultimately, leave makara, ahankara outside, leave all possessions outside, leave family outside, leave the profession also outside. The body and the mind you can't leave, so you have to bring it inside.
Acharyaji, can you please again explain parigraha?
Parigraha is what you have. Parigraha means receiving. So here, Shankaracharya very clearly says, Parigraha means Sharira Dharana Prasangena Dharmanushtana Nimittena. Means those possessions which you have for maintenance of the body and for doing of religious activities, this must be all renounced when you enter the meditation seats. Don't come in saying that, I am a very strong person. I do my bull work every day in the morning. Or I have got a lot of money which I use for doing religious activities. All that you are living outside. Everything which you do in your grahastha ashram, you live outside. You have to renounce them. Parigraham literally means receipt of certain things from others. So bahya praptaha is parigraha. What you receive from others. Your wealth also is not yours, right? You have received it from somebody. Maybe it is from your father, from your mother, from your employer. So everything is parigraha. You have to renounce that. So essentially, reduce your possessions. Why? Because the greater the possessions, the greater the distraction. Apparigraha, that in which nothing is there, a simple life, right? So if you have 30 pairs of shoes, bring it down to 2 pairs. And what should you become? Jnanishta yatihi. Yatihi means a sannyasi. Because you become a sannyasi, why? Because you have dropped everything outside the room. And jnananishtaha, a person who is having only thoughts about the Atma. If you are in this state when you enter the meditation room and you are doing Nididhyasanam, Brahma Bhuyaya, you become fit for becoming Brahman. Brahma Bhavaha is Brahma Aikyam. So Shankara describes Brahma Bhavanaya Kalpati. Samarthaha Bhavati. He becomes fit for Brahma Aikyam. And therefore, what? You have to practice Nididhyasanam as many times as possible during the day. When you are not engaged in Grahastha activities, you should not be watching TV. You should be doing Nididhyasana. That is the mark of a Jnana-nishtha. As far as possible, have only thoughts about the Atma, have thoughts about the teaching. You are permitted to think about non-teaching thoughts only when your mind has to be available for doing something. When you're cooking, for example, I would not recommend Atma Dhyana, right? Or when you're driving. Now, the next verse,
Remain in the
18.
green room.
I beg your pardon?
I said remain in the green room most of the time, not on the stage.
Yes, remain in the room. That is the way. 1854. Brahmabhuta prasannatma
ब्रह्मभूतः प्रसन्नात्मा
ब्रह्मभूतप्रसन्नात्मा
न शोचति न काङ्क्षति
न
न
शोचति
न
न
शोचति न
काङ्क्षति
काङ्क्षति
समसर्वेषु भूतेषु
समः
समः
सर्वेषु
सर्वेषु
भूतेषु
भूतेषु
मद्भक्तिं लभते पराम्.
मद्भक्तिं
भक्तिं
मद्भक्तिं
लभते
लभते
पराम्
पराम्.
If you have become fit for becoming Brahman, Brahma Bhutaha means the person who has understood that he is Brahman. Shankara gives a very beautiful definition. Brahma Bhutaha means Brahma Praptaha. Brahma Praptaha means you know that you are Brahman. It's not that you are becoming Brahman, because you don't have to become Brahman, right? Brahma Bhutaha can be thought of as becoming Brahman. That's why Shankara says no. Brahma Praptaha. One who has understood that he is Brahman, because he always was Brahman. But now, after Nididhyasanam, he understood that he is now Brahman. He always been Brahman. And therefore, this is the Jnana Phalam. What is that? Prasanna Atma. Prasanna Atma means Labdha Adhyatma Prasada Swabhava. The one who has gained peace of mind. Why peace of mind? Remember that your greatest disturbances are always when you think you're anatma. Is that true?
Yes.
If you think you are the body, or you think you are the mind, or in other words, you are judging yourself based on the defects of the body and the mind, you will always be judging yourself. And therefore, you will always be disturbed because you are judging yourself on the basis of anatma. And therefore, Krishna is saying, Labdha Adhyatma Prasada Swavaha. Shankaracharya says that's the meaning of Prasanna Atma, which means what? You have gained that peace because you have stopped judging yourself on the basis of Anatma. Anatma always has problems. As long as you judge yourself on the basis of Anatma, you will never be in a comfortable state of mind. Right? So, Mana Shantihi is the first indication of maturity, of Jivan Mukti. The person has a peaceful mind. Remember, this is mind-centered moksha. And mind-centered moksha is not real moksha. Okay. Whenever we say Jivan Muktihi, Videha Muktihi, we are talking from the viewpoint of body and mind. That can never be real moksha because it's anatta based. But that is a starting point. So he says, Nashochati. A person who has understood this, come to this maturity, is not disturbed, not overpowered by sorrow very easily. He is able to accept the situations very calmly. Right? That is why in the very beginning of the teaching, what did Krishna say? Asocyananma sochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasu na gatasumscha manu shochanti pandita.
Anushotanti pandita.
The pandita does not agree. So na sochati, Shankaracharya says, na sochati means not troubled, not tormented. Na santapyate. He is not tormented. By what? By the lack of any object. Whatever is there or not there, it doesn't bother him. And not only that, any limitations of his upadis. So here he says, Atmanaha Vaigunyam. Vaigunyam means lack of gunas, deficiencies. Atmanaha here is body mind, not the Satchidatma. Therefore, the deficiencies of his body and his mind, they don't bother. They don't torment him. Why? Because he accepts that the body and the mind are anatma. They will have problems. The body can be strong, the body can be weak, the body can be young, the body can be old. The mind can be, troubled, the mind can be peaceful. all these qualities, they cannot touch the Atma at all. And therefore, na kankshatihi. He has no more binding desires. Right? He does not want his body to be very strong, or he would like it to be strong, but if it is not strong, he is not troubled. And why is it not so? Why is he not troubled? Shankara says, because in a Brahmavid, a desire for that which is not being gained can never arise. Which means for a person who has understood that is Brahman, a Brahmavid, desire is not logically possible at all. Why?
He's already Purnaha.
He's already Purnam, and Purnam means there is nothing to be desired, nothing to be attained. Therefore, for a Brahmavid, there is no desire at all. He has his sense of fulfillment is absolute. So his attitude is, I don't lack anything in life. I don't miss anything in life. And therefore, the first sign of being a Brahmavid is self-sufficiency, Purnatvam. You're okay with whatever is there. You don't struggle, right? So SPG gives a very beautiful example. I think everybody will appreciate that. When you put the puri in oil, you know what happens? It moves all over the oil. It runs around from one end to the other.
Yeah.
And when does it stop running?
When it's puffed up and ready.
When it is puffed up, when it's purnaha.
Yeah.
So as long as it is not purnaha, you are running around. So as long as you think you are not purnaha, you will run around. Because you actually are purnaha. The moment you think you know you are purnaha, the struggle stops. And just so, you the sadhakas, you have been going through karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga, etc., etc. But when through all that, you finally realize that there was no need. That I was already purnaha. Atmaneva atmana tushtaha. There is no more struggle. And therefore, na kanshati, he has no desires. I rather say binding desires he does not have. You may still have desires, but those desires are not for acquiring purnatva. Those desires are born out of purnatva. Therefore, they are not binding. Whether they are fulfilled or not, it doesn't matter to you. Then, samasarveshu bhuteshu. So that is, you have to remember, atmaupamyena sarvabhuteshu sukham dukh. Right? This is the sameness of Atma and all beings. Samatva. That is the Atma is the sameness in all beings. So Shankara says that you have to interpret Samatvam in this verse from the Dharma Shastra angle, not from Vedantic angle. So you can also say that Vedantic angle, sameness of Atma in all beings. Or Samam can be in Samam Sarvesha Bhuteshu means that Atma is the same in all beings. Right? The very word. Now, sameness, samam, can be interpreted from Dharma Shastra or can be interpreted from Jnana Shastra, from Jnana angle, Vedantic Shastra, right? And Shankara comments here saying that no, you should interpret from Dharma Shastra, not from Vedantic Shastra, because the Vedantic interpretation will be given in another verse. And therefore, here, Samaha is a value that I have to practice. And so Shankara writes, Atma upamyena. He looks at others, Atma upamyena, keeping himself as the standard. Which means what? Whatever he understands that whatever makes him happy is what makes others happy. He understands that whatever makes him sad will make others sad. Whatever gives him pain will make others pain, will make others give others pain. And therefore, he will treat everybody else the way he wants to be treated. And therefore, ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Such a person understands dharma very clearly because he has placed himself as the standard of judgment. Right? So, knowing that anything which affects me will also affect others, that is what is talked about here. When I forget that, you should not be living in a world where you judge every situation only in how it will affect me. You should look at the world objectively without raga dvesha. Right? So he says the meaning should not be taken in the Vedantic sense of seeing Atma in all beings. It is a fact that Atma is there in all beings. But you should not take that meaning because that meaning is given in the 55th verse. Okay. And when we see the 55th verse, we'll come to the Vedantic meaning. Okay. Now,
Just one point.
yes, please.
Does it also mean that empathy arises from this verse that you are telling?
Yes, because the fact that you can understand why somebody is in distress, you are understanding not because you know his mind, but you have understanding that that same situation would have made me distressful, and therefore I can understand why he is become distressful. That is definitely empathy.
Thank you.
Okay. The next word is mad bhaktim. Right? Mad bhaktim is my Parameshwara Bhaktim Bhajanam. That is what Shankar's definition is. So Bhajanam here means attains, not doing bhajans. Bhajanam means gets, attains. Bhajanam, my, gets me. Who am I? Parameshwara Param. I am the Parama Bhakti, Parama Parameshwara. So this Param Bhakti, he gets me in the form of having been endowed with the superior most bhakti. And Param Bhakti is what? You have to remember the Chaturvidha Bhajante Ma.
Niyam.
Highest bhakti is what? The
Yeah, Niyam.
Niyam.
understanding that I am the Jnani, that I am Ishvara himself. So Param Bhakti means understanding that I am Ishvara. Param Bhakti Labhati. He gets the superior most bhakti, which means he knows he is Ishvara. So this is a straight verse which negates a popular misconception that Vedanta and Jnana are opposed to bhakti. So a lot of people who are strong, proponents of bhakti marga, they don't like Vedanta because they say Vedanta and Jnana are very dry. It destroys bhakti. But here Krishna himself is saying, highest jnanam is nothing but, highest bhakti is nothing but jnana. In fact, we have to understand that jnanam actually refines bhakti. And the jnani's bhakti alone is the highest form of bhakti. Jnani's bhakti is what? The understanding that I and Ishvara are not different. Param bhaktim labate. And this is called Advaita bhakti. And this, basically, this verse is the underlying verse for what we call FIR, the reduction in frequency, intensity, and reaction time, restoration time. So if this was understood properly, Shanti will become dominant, Shoka will become less, Kama will become less. And what exactly is FIR? What do we mean when we say reduction in FIR?
The frequency, intensity, and the recovery time from emotional
From
disturbances.
emotional distress. Right. So we are saying that you will have emotional distress because you are blind. But as your Vedantic study becomes stronger and stronger, your the number of times you lose your temper will become less. The intensity will become less. You will no longer throw plates. You will just grumble. And the recovery time will not be 5 days. It will come down to a few minutes. When you're doing that consistently, your FIR is dropping. Why is it dropping? Because of these kind of verses. Okay, now we look at the next verse number 55. Bhaktya janati.
भक्त्या
भक्त्या
मामपि जानाति
Yavan yashchasmi tatvatah.
यावान्यस्मि तत्त्वतः
यावान्यस्मि तत्त्वतः
Tato mam tatvato gyatva.
ततो मां
ततो
तत्त्वतो
मां
ज्ञात्वा
तत्त्वतः
Vishate tadantaram.
विशते
विशते
तदनन्तरम्
तदनन्तरम्
So this is a summary of the Nididhyasanam topic. So he says bhaktya. Bhaktya means by the practice of the bhakti in the form of Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana rupa bhakti. By regularly practicing it, what happens? And remember that Shankaracharya defines this in Viveka Chudamani. He says, meditation on Swasarupa, on your own nature is bhakti. What is your own nature? Nothing but the Lord Himself, nothing but Atma. So for meditation on Atma, your own nature is bhakti. If you meditate upon Atma's nature as something different from you, that is not the highest one. As bhakti is meditating on Atma as your own nature. And by that, bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan. By that bhakti, yavan, that sadhaka, that meditator, he knows me as I am. Yavan is as I am. And what is that? Abhijanati, completely knows me. Completely means both apara and para. Nature he knows. Why? Because I am with many different upadhis. And different upadhis result in differences of appearance. So, Saguna Brahma Rupam he knows. And we have seen all this in chapter 10, right? And here we should note that Nirguna Ishvara and Saguna Ishvara are both infinite. What is the difference? How can there be two infinites?
Both are same, but one is with upadhis.
Yes, what is the difference? Actual difference.
One is Satyam, there is Mithya.
Yes.
Intent.
One is Vyavaharika, one is Paramarthika. So you have to very carefully note that whenever you talk about Saguna Ishvara is infinite, but that is at the Vyavaharika level. Nirguna Ishvara is infinite at the Paramarthika level. And so he says, Yascha aham asmi vidvastaha sarva upadhi. When all the upadhis have been destroyed, when all the upadhi differences have been destroyed, vidvastaha is destroyed. Sarva upadhi bhedaha. All the differences have been destroyed. Therefore, he knows me as Saguna Brahma Ishvara. And then further he destroys all the upadhi bhedaha. All the differences arising out of different upadhis, he rejects. And then he knows me as Nirguna Ishvaraha. That tam mam uttama purushaha. That Nirguna Ishvara, I am. I am the supreme Purushaha. Right? And what are the qualities or descriptions? Advaitam, non-dual. Chaitanya matram ekarasam. Pure consciousness alone. Ajam, without birth. Ajaram, without old age. Amaram, without death. Abhayam, without fear. Anidanam, without end. All this is Shankara. Okay, no, it's not there in the verse. All this Shankara. And then somebody might ask, you talk about Amaram and Anidanam. Amaram is no death. Anidanam is without death. Why two? Shankara gives a very nice explanation. He says one is Kala Nimitta Nashaha. One is destruction caused by the time principle. And that means there is a destruction, but something is left over. And jnana nimitta nashaha, destroyed by jnanam alone. So, very important distinction. What is destroyed by time leaves a residue, something behind. What is not destroyed by time, but destroyed by knowledge, is complete destruction. There is no residue at all. And that's why two words Shankara uses, Amaram and Nidhanam. Such a person who knows me as Saguneshwara and Nirguneshwara, he says Tatvataha Abhijanati. In reality, that person is not different from me at all. Mam Abhijanati. He gets Ishwara Nishtha. He knows that he and I are the same. Abhijanati means he assimilates this teaching. Teaching about whom? About me, Mam. And what is the teaching? Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. We saw in the seventh chapter. The Lord without form is Nirguna Chaitanyam, Aparaprakriti, endowed with all superior virtues. Is Lord without form is Nirguna Chaitanyam, Aparaprakriti. But the Lord endowed with virtues like Sarvagnyatvam, Sarvakaranatvam, Sarvakaranatvam. I'm muting you all again. Okay. I would request you all not to, unmute yourself if something is going on in the house. Okay, see, we're saying he knows Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. What is that? Aparaprakriti is Nirguna Chaitanyam without any forms at all, without any attributes at all. And when you endow that Nirguna Chaitanyam with attributes like the Sarvagnatam, all-knowingness, Sarvakaranatvam, creator of everything, that is Saguna Ishvaswarup. So he must know both. So in the Vyavaharika plane, remember Ishvara is the Samashti, the Sadhaka is the Vyashti. It's a very important distinction. In the Vyavaharika plane, there will always be Bhagavan and Bhakta. Bhagavan is the Samashti, Bhakta is the Vyashti. But in the Paramarthika plane, there is no Samashti, there is no Vyashti, there is no Bhagavan, there is no Sadhaka, there is no Bhakta. There is only Nirguna Chaitanyam iti abhijanati. So this Jnani knows that Ishvara expresses himself in Samashti in a particular manner. Tatvata gyatva mam. So not only does he know this Samashti Upadhi and the Vyashti Upadhi, he knows that Nirguna Chaitanyam is totally free from all Upadhis. So at Nirguna level, only at Nirguna level, can you go beyond time and space and all divisions. When one transcends time, one goes beyond mortality. That is why Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Amritatvam is only in Paramarthika. Saguna means Vyavaharika, means relativity, means time, space, and mortality. So he says, Tataha Mam Tatpataha Gyatva Evam. Only if he knows me in this higher nature, which means Tat Pada Lakshyartaha, Tad Anantaram, immediately after that knowledge, as a consequence of Nirguna Ishvara Jnana, Vishate Mam, he comes to Chaitanyam, which is beyond time and space. He realizes there is nothing to divide him and me, Ishvara. Therefore, Shankara says, Vishate is only figurative. You don't really go there. And therefore, you have to understand very carefully that by saying he enters without delay, Yatva Vishate Tadarantaram, he doesn't mean there is a difference between the acts of knowing and entering. even though two verbs are used, gyatva and vishate. Gyatva means having known, vishate means having entered. So, literally speaking, when you say gyatva vishate, you can say after having known Brahman, he enters Brahman. But Shankara says no. What is meant is that pure knowledge alone, there is no other fruit. The merging is not a separate process from knowing. The two processes are the same, right? Like cutting a banana. The cutting and dividing into two pieces are not two different processes. When you cut, you divide, right? This is what is said. So with this,
So
we'll stop
Nyatva
here.
and Vishate Acharyaji would mean discovering.
You can take it as there are two verbs that are being used, but the idea is that when you discover that you are Brahman, you have become Brahman. There is no discovery and entry, discovery and becoming. The discovery itself is the becoming, which is a very important idea because you don't discover and then meditate. The moment you discovered, you have entered, you have become Brahman. And that is what was said earlier. Kshetrajnam chapimam with the one very clearly Krishna said that Jivatma is identical to Paramatma. There is no need for any discussion on that, he says. Now with this, after this is the what we call basic explanation of the mantra of the shloka. Now there's a very long, very important inquiry which Shankara enters into, which we will do in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya Purnam
Purnamadaya
Eva
Purnameva
Vashishyate
Shishyate
Om
Om
Shanti Shanti
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for
Om
your
Namah
patience.
Shivaya.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.